Beautiful sunrise here at Punta Roca. Buenos dias. Punta Roca waking up to a full house. George Bitar checking out the early sunrise and the conditions this morning. Joel Vaughn and company staring at the ocean in the Red Bull Athlete Zone. Fioravanti has a matchup with his roommate, Goofy Foot Ryan Callanan, and Caroline Marks still on the quest to make it 3 in a row. Baron Mamiya looking loose. The Brazilian vet, Alejo Muniz, speeding down the line, and if Mama Roca could talk, she'd be screaming. World number 1, Italo Ferreira, has done about 7 of these so far this morning, even before the sun came up. Just in his sleep, backside rotator, still setting the pace on tour this year into stop number 4. Coming off our first lay day yesterday, coming into Monday morning. Thanks for being with us. Joe Turpel, Rosie Hodge, and Jesse Mendez here for the morning report. Waves look fun again, a bit like Groundhog's Day, and it's up to the executives to make those decisions. Looks like we are on today, but we're just going to focus on those last 2 heats for the women in the round of 16. Yeah,
going to set up the quarterfinals for the women today. There's been some beautiful waves coming through the lineup. I'm really stoked to get contest underway. Obviously, it's going to be a short day for us, Jesse.
There's a lot of waves, a lot of opportunities right there, but we do have a lot of forecasts in front of us. Mostly the last 3 days are looking pretty nice to line up and finish off the event. So, yeah, I think it's a good call. Run a few days, and then we have less heats to put into prime times in the next few days coming up.
Breaking down the conditions of what you've seen so far, Rosie, how are the waves?
Yeah, it's been super fun this morning. Obviously, that tide a little bit lower. The wind's been light, and yeah, there's still a little bit of energy in the water, some head-high sets at times, and pretty consistent. We'll see if that stays the trend as we watch these 2 heats get underway.
Jesse, you can tell why there's been some thought, going into the calls every morning, because sometimes it goes a little lully, and then all of a sudden someone like Sammy Pupo will get barreled, and you're on, hang on, let's watch for a few more minutes.
Yeah, and that's the problem sometimes. Like you see, there's good potential waves out there, but it gets slow, like you mentioned, and the head judge kind of paying close attention to see if there's enough opportunity for all the surfers to actually be provided with quality waves. So that's what's the case yesterday. There's actually plenty of waves, but the swell was kind of broken, so there's a lot of closeouts and not many good quality waves. Today cleaned up a little bit more, and we should see some very fun waves being ridden from the surfers, and we just started.
Isabella Nichols versus Caroline Marks here in the first heat of the morning. It's heat 7 of the round of 16. Tyler Ryan and Betty Lou Sakura Johnson will be the last heat of the day, so it's a quick one here on Monday morning. Sun's already blazing, about 86 degrees Fahrenheit, water about the same. And even when it's smaller, it's still rippable and fun. We've seen just about everything this morning as far as big moves, big airs, even little tube rides up here at the top of Punta Roca. And it's all about Caroline Marks being the favorite once again in El Salvador, trying to make it 3 in a row and create history in this event.
Yeah, Caroline, I mean, I feel like she's got the target on her back from the rest of the surfers. She's got 2 in a row at this event. She's got a 3rd in her scoreline. She's coming off a win in Portugal, but she hasn't had it all her own way, Joe. I mean, in the opening rounds, some slow heat, so let's see how she does in this round of 16.
Time to say a big buenos dias to our good friend, our amigo, Mitchell Salazar with George Pitar.
Buenos dias, ladies and gentlemen. We're here with Jorge Pitar, true rookie on the Championship Tour. George, you paddled out this morning. We only have 2 heats, but what do you see out there with the excellent conditions we have on hand?
Yeah, it was super fun. Another early morning wake up. We've been getting up at like 5 a.m. every morning, but I don't know, it's been nice. The mornings are super clean, and it is a little bit slow, but when the sets come, they're pretty nice. So yeah, I think they're just going to finish off these 2 last heats of the round of 16 women, and I don't know, maybe on next couple of days.
Hopefully, and just 4 events in, how much fun are you enjoying yourself? And just overall, what's the experience been like on the Championship Tour?
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's been pretty special for me, like surreal doing these last few events. And I don't know, coming over here especially, like we got so much, they give us so much, like go and play golf for free. And I think today we're getting like a chopper over to some other island. So yeah, they definitely treat you a lot nicer on this. But yeah, I've been loving it. It's good times.
Yeah. Best of luck in the rest of the event, rest of the calendar.
Thank you. Cheers.
Guys, White Lotus at Salvador, that's coming up next too.
We're looking forward to it, Mitchell. George Pitar, part of the rookie class this year. He's got a big heat in the round of 32 with Jack Robinson. Jack, who's already been in the title showdown multiple times, already 7 wins on the championship tour, will be headlining that matchup. Guy that has accomplished a lot and a guy that's just making his name for himself on tour. Always look forward to those big matchups. So George will pack it up, plan his day accordingly. Maybe go on some more trips with the tourism board and enjoy this place. Meanwhile, back to business in the water. Caroline Marks and Isabella Nichols going head-to-head. The first day it was called off, Isabella Nichols was in her jersey for hours. She was really planning on surfing her heat that day. I ran into her in the parking lot back at the hotel, and she was still kind of scratching her head on why we didn't, send that heat out there. For competitors, sometimes it's a split decision, and she was really ready to compete. What is it like when you got to turn that energy off and then bring it back when you're finally called on?
That is such an interesting equation for these competitive surfers. You're sitting there, you're ramping up, you've done your warm-up, you've kind of quietened all the head noise, and then all of a sudden it gets called off and you kind of have to step it into idle again. And I think that's kind of what both of these women have had to do. But then on top of that, the early morning wake-ups, they all start to kind of get one on top of each other. So I want to see who's managing that energy well this morning. What do you think, Jesse?
I mean, both of those surfers are veterans. Obviously, they've been on tour for a few years. Obviously, Caroline kept herself on tour for longer, so she had more of those situations happen with her. But it's kind of rare to actually happen the situation the other way around. Usually, the surfers don't want to surf and ended up getting called on. But I talked to Isabella, and she was actually frothing to go surf because there's good waves last morning. It's just kind of slow, and then they call it off. So it's a different story. It doesn't really happen often, and you just got to reset. And I mean, Caroline's pretty good at that, so I might give the edge on her on that one.
Still waiting for the first wave. As you can tell, the blue jersey of Isabella Nichols looks like she wants to control the outside position. Now we say buenos dias to our good friend Chris Cote in the Red Bull Athlete Zone.
Hey, good morning, team. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit something I'd like to call the Punta Rocas tariffs. That's right. This wave has been taking taxes from these professional surfers. On the most part, pro surfers carry themselves very well. They're always just looking like they're completely in control. Well, you can take that and throw it out the window on the ins and outs. I'm actually watching our very own Strider Wasilewski slowly, cautiously make his way out into the lineup. These rocks have been making these surfers pay. We've already seen fins blown out. We saw Sally Pitts yesterday. We saw Sawyer Lindblad have to really cause some concern. She had a really bad fall at her. Luckily, she's totally fine. It was just one of those wild slips that had the entirety of this area concerned about what was happening with her coming in. One of the worst ones we saw actually yesterday, or this morning even, was something that I really haven't seen very often in surfing. We saw Brisa Hennessy go out there, and somewhere between a bottom turn or riding out of this wave, her fin was actually smashed from beneath through the top of her deck. That's something that is super rare in surfing. So fin systems, no one's safe. Shins, feet, ankles, no one's safe when you're trying to come in and out. And yeah, it is a lot of times, that thing where it's really funny when your friend does this and falls, but on the flip side of that, there have been some situations where it's pretty serious for surfers trying to get in and out, especially when low tide is here, because then you have an even extended field, more slippery rocks and boulders, all different sizes. No way to look cool coming in or out from this wave, unless maybe you're the Pink Panther and you make it look easy. But for everybody else, including our Strider Wasilewski, who's making his way into the lineup right now, no way to look cool coming in and out of the water here. It's tough.
So true, Chris, as we see the Waz right there with the big backpack on to bring you the coverage from the lineup. He's got to take it fairly easy, one step at a time. Make sure his board's safe first. That's the first priority. He'll flip onto his side to save his equipment. And
he's
once
on the
he
spot
gets out
right
there,
now.
we'll have a conversation, but it might take about 10 minutes. Careful, Waz.
It's not easy. It's not easy. Dude, I'm gonna wait for a set and hope for a little like surge or something to get me over all this.
Yeah, take your time, man. Make safety a reflex.
This is brutal. Every day these guys got to do this.
What's
Well,
your strategy right now?
I'm gonna wait for this little set to come through, but I gotta put the mic right so I don't fall. I gotta get balance, and then I'm gonna go for a little fins up paddle maybe. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you got it. Do you mind if we watch you do it, or?
It's gonna be ugly, but yeah.
Do you, well, I think you just got saved because there's some waves on the way.
Good, good. Watch the waves.
We'll catch up with the Waz in a moment. Keep you posted. Isabella Nichols, meanwhile, still keeping a close eye on Caroline Marks. That wave's going to roll through unridden, so they're pretty deep, being pretty selective at the moment. Not getting things started, and this is always an interesting part of the heat. You know, is one surfer going to budge and make a move and get things started, or are they going to just go really deep and really burn some time off this clock before focusing on performance? But the wave that Chris was talking about earlier, where Brisa broke her fin off and went through her board, this is the wave that he was talking about that happened this morning.
Yeah, you just see that little step, and Brisa wasn't anticipating that at all as her eyes were up in the lip, but that'll just take you out, Jesse. That's a, you know, hard in the throat moment.
Have you ever seen something like that where the fin box goes through the deck of the board? That's the first time I've ever seen that.
I've never seen that before. Wow, look at the damage.
That's unsalvageable, you would have to say.
My foot was right there. Oh my God. Like, can you imagine that thing? What the frick?
Oh my God. Good morning, Mama Hawka.
That's good luck, right? Right.
Good morning, Mama Roca, from Brisa's coach, Leandro Dora. Not the first disaster we've seen with equipment this week. And that one was really surprising. You can tell how committed she was off the bottom. She had no idea she was going to aggressively have a wipeout. She looks fine, shaking it off, but the worry is if that was her magic word, how different things might be as she's already into the quarterfinals. She'll have to go to a different surfboard to compete against Molly Picklum. Gabby Bryant has Bella Kenworthy. There's some great heats here in the first three quarterfinals. These two heats we're running this morning will set up quarterfinal number 4. Now getting into the bracket series that you could find on worldsurfleague.com. Top half of the draw has world number 1 Katie Simmers leading off the final series, taking on her good friend, childhood rival, Sora Lindblad, Rosie.
Yeah, some really great heats matching up in the quarterfinals. We saw some tough losses already in this event, but it's cool to see how this is all starting to stack up.
Gabby Bryan's been looking really solid, powerful surfer, takes on Bella Kenworthy, and Bella came off that heat with Aaron Brooks the other day, Jesse. That all-rookie battle, that was one of my favorite heats of the event so far.
Yeah, that was awesome because it started off like just kind of a domination of Bella. Obviously with not massive score, but she still was kind of getting away with, and all of a sudden Aaron found that jam of like a smaller right, and she's just so fast and dynamic when she surfs, and she got to 7-point right, and it was just kind of one beating the other every time they took off on a wave. So it was pretty fun to watch. A good exchange there.
Setting up the final heat of the quarterfinals. Caroline Marks, back-to-back wins, confidence through the roof, her back-end game on lock, and it just feels like the trilogy feels less like a dream and more like destiny when she's been on this kind of a roll. She has also come off a win in Portugal, but to own an event for 3 straight seasons, that's just not something you see all the time, and I don't think anything's really slowing her down.
Yeah, and I think Caroline is a momentum surfer. She likes having that goal, that carrot dangling in front of her. I think she'd be looking at the greats like Carissa and Steph, who've done, you know, the three victories in a row at different locations on tour, and that's something an accolade she'd like to add to the world titles, the gold medals. Definitely achievable for Caroline.
Meanwhile, still scoreless. Remember, this started off as a 35-minute heat. Isabella looking very comfortable sitting right next to the former world champ, not making a single move. Jesse, what are the options here? Focusing on first with Isabella Nichols. How long is she going to play this game?
Well, it was interesting to actually see that. I was just about to mention before you asked, but if you look back a few minutes ago, actually Caroline Marks started on the deeper side, which on a heat without priority at the moment, that means that she kind of has the right of way, because obviously if you're deeper on the peak, you can choose the wave you want. And then halfway through, we kind of went away and we got back, and obviously Blue sits on the right side off the peak right now, having the priority. So they're kind of playing a little battle right there, but it seems like Caroline didn't want to push herself too much further up the point. And one of the reasons probably why is you don't want to waste too much time. You don't want to put yourself out of position. And also she's a goofy footer, which that means she generates less speed off the takeoff. So it's easier for a regular footer facing the wave to be a little bit deeper and put themselves deeper in the lineup. It would help them out to generate that speed right off the bat and catch up to the section. And when you're with your back against the wall, it's a little bit tougher. So I think Caroline just doesn't want to get too deep into that battle and just let it go and maybe hope for a second wave of the set. Let's see how it's going to pan out, because yeah.
Well, still waiting for the first exchange to go down here in heat number 7 of the round of 16. Let's get more insight on the forecast with Mike Watson from Surfline.
There were a couple storms in the Pacific last weekend. We had one compact small low with gale to strong gale force winds. Size of the storm limits the amount of swell generated off this, but concurrently there was another low way down in the South Pacific. This was another storm with gale to strong gale force winds. Now swells off both of these are fairly modest overall, enough to produce some fun size surf early to midweek. Then surf heights are generally steady in that chest to shoulder high range, likely to see some periods of occasional head high surf. Now behind that is our final and strongest low of interest. This storm has checked a lot of the boxes we like to see: a lengthy, wide, long-lasting fetch, and the storm moved toward El Salvador. Now satellite observations are fairly well aligned with computer model forecasts. In fact, this recent pass right here shows a swell a couple feet bigger than the computer model expectations. So we are on track and expecting one of the biggest swells of the 2025 season so far. We're looking for this swell to arrive Thursday, peak Friday, and then continue into Saturday. Now, modeled surf heights Thursday may be just a little overdone for the 8M hours. Past experience suggests that the front end of these longer period swells of 18 seconds and greater may not end up quite as big at Punta Roca as forecasted surf heights currently suggest. So that's just something to watch for. But another key point to watch Thursday is we have the AM low tide, which is generally unfavorable for Punta Roca. The tidal ranges, though, not quite as big as they were at the start of the event window. Even so, that expectation is for fun to good-sized surf with swell filling in through the day, tide incoming, so becoming more favorable as well. Swell and surf is peaking Friday with overhead to well overhead surf. May even see some wave faces pushing double overhead. And then Saturday is down in size, but still solid in the overhead range. Now winds are looking good through at least the first half of each day. Early in the week, we're going to see, again, a lot of that diurnal flow, pretty decent in the morning, shifting onshore in the afternoon. When the swell arrives, again, looking at winds good at least through the first half of each day, and then some reliable models suggest the possibility of decent winds even into the PM hours. So that's something we'll watch and fine-tune as we move through the week.
Mike Watson from Surfline giving us the breakdown, and you heard the horn there. That means we've just got a fresh clock for Caroline Marks and Isabella Nichols. So upstairs being pretty generous this morning. They were pushed pretty deep. Couple waves can roll through underneath them, but if they deemed that they need a new clock, that there wasn't enough opportunity, they weren't being too picky, they'll run that clock back. Throughout the last couple days of competition, if they've noticed some serious commitment to moving deep up the point, they're pretty open with sharing to the surfers, hey, you guys won't get a new clock. There have been waves in the zone that you're missing. Being too greedy for that inside position. Just like in this case, they're letting Caroline and Isabella know that we're about to count you into a restart. 35 minutes, everything starts all over, Ro.
Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate. I mean, compared to the energy that we were seeing this morning, we're seeing a lot of waves. It definitely feels like it's taking a little bit of a breather. Fresh clock for these women, and like you said, they haven't been aggressively up the point, blatantly missing opportunities, so good call by the head judges.
Caroline versus Isabella. We're getting a fresh clock. Mitch, how you doing?
We are. I'm in the second floor of the locker rooms, and guys, as you can see behind me, there's a really nice kind of cafeteria section right here. They got multiple TVs to watch the event. Not air conditioned right here, but let's go inside. Cameraman Pat's gonna follow me right here. Come on, Pat. All right, guys, look at this. We got Pinga getting worked on by Dr. John Predor over here. Seth Moniz is waiting in line right behind him. But on the other side, the Pilates machine over here, Joe, I know we're gonna hit that later. And if you come over here, Patrick, dude, Joe, facials. Facials. We're reserving these for later. It's gonna be super fun. And Chris Cote, I know you've already been here, and you got some more info on Isabella Nichols.
This whole situation is starting to remind me of one of the best songs ever written, Fugazi, Waiting Room. A lot of waiting so far this week. In the case of Isabella Nichols, she has been in that blue jersey 2 days in a row. This would be her third day in that jersey, and she has yet to ride a wave. So that is a really uncommon thing. But the good news is, you know, we have this waiting period, so why not pick the best parts of the day? And that's exactly what's been happening. You know, these short morning sessions, it really does have that surf trip vibe where you know, get in, get early, and then you have the rest of the day to kind of do whatever. But doing whatever right now in the lineup is Strider Wasilewski, who we hope we'll see some action right up in his grill here in a minute.
Let's go. I want to see it. I mean, there's been a little bit of caddying out the back there, but for me, I'm just happy I made it out over those rocks with my hat and my sunglasses. So I'm feeling good about my situation out here because it's blazing hot, and I'm just happy to be back in the lineup to watch this little heat go down. And I think I'm going to see some flare bears going mental. I've been, you know, Caroline down at the beach every morning. Just, I mean, it's got to be wearing on you a little. You know, along with her opponent, just like, we're ready, we're ready, we're ready. No, you're not going, you're not going, you're not going. And then finally they just get the nod. All right, let's go. We got to get this done. And, you know, Caroline's got her thug squad with her, though. She's, you know, got Molly and Alexa. They've got a little tripod going on with the crew. So, you know, good support system. And, you know, Kurt's got the other opponent's back. So, you know, there's support here, but it wears on you. It tears on you. And this heat right now, I mean, I don't even think it's 8 o'clock yet, and it's like 100 degrees, so you got to be ready for everything.
It's hot, Strider. I was talking to Luana Silva after her morning heat the other day, and she was talking about the eye line being really tough with the sunrise coming up. Is that happening right now?
100%. When you come off the bottom and you're looking up, it's like the perfect angle where you're going to be coming into the lip line, and you're just going to get, well, if you practice your solar gazing, you'll be fine. But it's just like, I mean, it is really bright and really intense. So I think the UV index here at the moment is about a 12. So that's pretty heavy. It goes up to 15. We're almost to the top echelon.
Look at that. Thank you so much, Waz. Glad you made it out there safely over the rocks. Looking great out there in the water as usual. Meanwhile, still just paddling at the top of the point for these two. Isabella versus Caroline Marks. In previous CT matchups, it's in favor of Caroline, 2-1. So this is their fourth meeting on the championship tour. Both times Caroline has gotten the win. She's gone on to win the event after getting past Bella Nichols. First time Isabella was a wild card. You go back to the Gold Coast of Australia, and that's when Caroline won that big prize check. First day for equal prize money for men and women. That was a historical moment. And then we had Caroline just get past Isabella Nichols. Well, it's top 3 this season just in Portugal. And then Caroline went all the way.
Yeah, you don't want to be someone's lucky charm. That's like if you you overcome that person, go on to win the event, those little bits of memories come back to you.
Look at the max heat score there for Caroline Marks, 13.84 total. Both have thrown 7s at each other. So for Bella, just a win here would just even things up and just make things feel a bit better in this rivalry, Jesse.
It's kind of interesting, like it's kind of actually pretty low stats for both of the surfers, like low scoring heats. Like obviously you have the 7s, but when you look like surfers of this caliber, you expect a little bit more average, maybe just kind of start waved heats, or just, you know, it gets tight. Some of the heats, like there's more tension to it, no one can really open up, and that's the reason of this heat so far right now. Like not many waves, and it like just builds up inside of you, and it's hard for you to perform. Hopefully that's not the case. They have plenty of opportunity coming up, but so far it seems like it could be one of those.
Isabella Nichols growing up on the Sunshine Coast, Coolum Beach, spending a long time on those right-hand point breaks. Proud of her heritage, which began in Copenhagen. She's got a Viking culture that she's proud of, very competitive. An engineering mind with a degree. She likes to break down wave pools and break down the opening wave of the heat. A classy overhead section here at Punta Roca, and after all that time sitting, she catches a rail on her first turn. Advantage Caroline Marks after a serious wait and a restart, and a big mistake for Isabella Nichols.
That's tricky, and that's just maybe those bits of nerves coming to play, and just sitting for so long. You can tend to feel like a little bit like cement when you finally get your feet. There's so much anticipation for this first wave. Isabella lining up the section, everything's going right until it goes wrong there. Just getting stuck in that flat part of the face, Jesse.
Yeah, and that's just what I was mentioning about. Some heats are tougher than others for you to overcome. Right here, just digging that rail, like maybe putting a little bit too much pressure on the heel side too early as the nose of the board is still going up. But the problem is just heats sometimes just built to be like that. Like you have that tension against your opponent, and then 15 minutes seating without any waves, you get a reset and things start to creep in your head. Unfortunately for Bella, because that was a very tall wave in size, and it probably lined up pretty well. And she's going to have to reset now, and obviously Caroline is stoked because now she has priority, can sit whatever she wants, put herself in the best part of the lineup, and won't have anyone to bother her or try to push her deep.
Oh, Strider, that was a heartbreaker for Isabella Nichols.
It was hard to watch, but you know what? From my angle, like she came up to do that big turn. She was turning her shoulders, everything looked good, the rail was getting set, and she looked down the line that looked like, from my angle, and Mama Roca was sticking out of the water. And I think Mama Roca might have gotten her head a little bit right there, because, you know, we all saw Brisa and the board and the whole thing that happened this morning. Like literally right after she did the turn, I saw the boil and the rock just sticking out of the water. So maybe just a little bit in your head, like there's that one element of Mama Roca ready to rip your fins out.
That's crazy. Nice read there. Great perspective from Strider. And getting that Mama Roca in your peripheral definitely can throw you off. As we have a nice stretched out wave setting up for the backhand of the two-time event champ here in El Salvador. Caroline Marks places that one in the pocket. There's the step from Mama Roca. She's looking for deeper water here. Big punch out there from Marks. Chips it in the pocket. Now starting to flow. Olympic gold medalist just teeing off towards the inside as she is just warming up that backhand and warming up Mike Parsons. He'll be celebrating a few times in this heat. But a nice read, easy pace, doesn't ever look anything's forced. This wave definitely can bend to that backhand attack from Caroline Marks.
To me, Caroline has the best read of the lineup of all the competitors. You can tell she's eyeing down the section. She knows exactly where this rock boil is going to come up. She avoids it right there. Good read on the lineup. Straight up into that hook. A little bit of bump and chatter on that face, but Caroline is just so precise with her surfing and her timing out here.
Yeah, I think that's a great call that you mentioned, Rose. It's just precise. Like, you see the difference. Like, there's no hesitation. She wasn't doubting herself. I felt like Bella got a little bit tentative right there, was thinking ahead of herself a little bit too much, and forgot to finish that first turn, or forgot to even start it. She was looking down the point already. And Caroline is just beautiful. You see how vertical she gets and how she eyes it down exactly where she's going to land, not trying to move forward, taking her time. Goes for a high line. Just the exchange of the inside rail to the outside rail is beautiful from her heels to toes. Air dropping out of it, very tight in the pocket. Good start for her.
Now running right for Isabella Nichols to recover from the fall. Gets there off the lip, steps off of her second wave ridden. 23:42 to go. Coming off a restart for round of 16, heat 7. Caroline Marks locks in a 5.33 on the opening ride. And now Isabella's score in quickly at a 2.33. Caroline still out there with priority as we take another look at Isabella here, Rosie.
Yeah, long stretched out wall in front of her. She's trying to eye off a section to get to work. hammers that one. 2.33. Yeah, Isabella's just got to hit the reset button once again in this heat.
So just a one maneuver section, but plenty of time to regroup. Caroline moving closer to Bella now, as she has seriously controlled the start after Isabella's fall. Nichols taking the approach of just sitting on the inside for over 15 minutes. As we see the chopper upstairs there, or above us, excuse me, just over the trees.
Are they picking up some of the surfers to go to that secret
I think
spot?
that might be George Pitar, yeah, heading out to visit the volcano.
I mean, little warm-up surf here at Punta Roca, and then have breakfast and go into the next adventure.
Exactly, what a
Why
way to do
wouldn't you?
it. And that's what's so cool about the president having so much love for pro surfing and just creating Surf City here in La Libertad.
There's a really cool movie called Sweet Adventure, which is a surf movie based here in El Salvador. I think it was actually funded by El Salvadorian government, and it's done by Peter Hamlin, who did Carissa Moore's movie Riss, and it's got some really cool characters in it. Shows all of the surf spots here in El Salvador and really celebrates that surf culture. Highly recommend a watch.
Oh, that's awesome. And those types of movies just inspire surf trips. And when I need advice about a surf trip, I call Waz.
You know what? What's better than a strike mission and a helicopter? Are you kidding me? Jump in the heli, fly down to Punta Mango, get a couple waves, come back. Are you kidding? That's what their program is this morning. If you're lucky enough to get the call up onto the chopper, George was one of them. Qatar's on it. It's going to be a fun little trip. And then, hey, maybe they'll go check out some waterfalls or some volcanoes. I don't know. This place has got everything for you.
It really does, man. It's like great food, great clubs, cool party scene, fun waves up and down the coast. You can, if you do a little bit of homework, you can find uncrowded surf. A lot of different points to choose from. Punta Roca, definitely the gem of El Salvador and Central America. As we see some interested surfers in taking waves here. Bella doesn't have priority, so it will go to Caroline Marks on her second wave. Back-to-back champ, fresh off the win from Portugal. A world champ, Olympic gold medalist, lights up that first section. Driving into the pocket. Two big blows and a third. Got there late and ends up out of control on the finish. But some big connections before the fall to throw that into her second scoring ride. Isabella Nichols needs to get involved right here and up and out.
Well, that's an open door there for Isabella. Obviously, this is still going to be a decent score for Caroline, but if she would have finished, it would have been a completely different story. But I like to mention that it's very hard to beat any of the tour surfers when you're in your A game. So you got to try at least to minimize the mistakes that you have. Here, Caroline, obviously leaving the door open for Bella. Beautiful first turn, kind of goes around the section, gets up in vertical, and she's always very solid on her foot. Sets up beautifully for the second one, just a little bit too late. You can't even count that much as a mistake because that was very hard for you to get up there in time for it, and she did it very well, just kind of stayed too long on the lip line and landed with the lip. Beautiful surfing here for Caroline, just wasn't able to maximize the opportunity she had in front of her.
I was getting really excited about this wave because I think the velocity, like the first turn, second turn, even faster, and then to meet that lip line, she was going so extremely fast. The risk aspect was right there. I mean, she completes that and she's, you know, notching up some more numbers. And like you said, you can't leave any kind of a crack of a door open. Isabella is probably going to be really happy that Caroline wasn't able to complete that wave. She'd be in, you know, maybe even heading up towards way into that excellent range, but now it's only a 7.33 that she requires.
Caroline Marks getting a 4.33 on her last with the fall on the finishing move. Isabella's being selective, so Caroline's going to keep this backhand hot. Swings off the top a bit harder and goes down.
That looked like a very nice wave, pace wave for a goofy footer. A little bit more shouldery, but still steep enough. Very good to get up in vertical. Doesn't need to kind of run down the line, which is very tricky on her backhand with your back against the wall. another mistake. Both of the surfers are kind of leaving the door open, and for Bella, starting off with 2 massive mistakes, falling off right off the bat. It's a great opportunity for her to come back.
Yeah, and I think you can just tell there's that, from this water angle, you can tell there's that little bit of reverb coming up the face, maybe from the rocks, and that tide getting a little bit higher. It's hard to really sink your fins in. It's easy to lose that connection. That swell direction's kind of moving out to sea. I think that's where the mistake came in.
Caroline Marks coming from Melbourne Beach, Florida. That region of the world has just been a proving ground to build world champions. As we check in with Chris Cote.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Well, it's pretty quiet here in the Red Bull Athlete Zone. Really the only 2 professional surfers left in this area, Tyler Wright and Betty Lou Sakura-Johnson. Betty Lou, like the rest of the field, has been playing the wait-in game over the past few days. Talked to Tommy Whitaker a little bit earlier about, what does he tell these surfers that have been waiting around and the false starts and the go and they'd stop, and he basically just said, look, the 35 minutes that really counts is the 35 minutes you're going to spend in the water. All the stuff leading up to it, that's just preparation, and for the most part these surfers have just been really relaxing. Gabrielle O'Brien and the dog squad saying that they've been taking turns making dinner for their crew, and the cool part about their dinner parties is you got to rotate to the head of the table, and that's where you have to lead the conversation, so nobody gets out of being in the spotlight and leading the conversation. But of course, those are all the fun moments that we have behind the scenes on the tour here. The serious stuff is happening right now in the minds of Tyler Wright and Betty Lou Sakura-Johnson. This would be a pretty stressful heat to be watching, just because there hasn't been that much opportunity. So I'm really wondering, what gears are turning in the minds of these 2 surfers, because they've been sitting here waiting now for about an hour already before their heat. It's going to be an interesting one to watch.
Some great points there, Chris. It's so important who you spend your time with. Outside of the jersey, you have a lot of lay days. There's a lot of times traveling, who you're booking houses with, sharing cars with, eating dinners with. That's a lot of time. You want to be with people that bring out the best in you, that understand your personality and give you space when you need it, and then give you that attention. That's why we hang out with Chris so much. Just always happy, always fun, cracking jokes, always ready for a good time, and just loves surfing so much. It's with Betty Lou, it's a new crew for her. With Ross Williams taking the year off, and then signing up with Tommy Whitaker. So she liked the vibe that they're having. Oftentimes, as coaches will ask their current surfers, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And everyone says, "Yeah, let's do it." And they got someone added to the crew.
And that's sometimes kind of difficult to align yourself with everyone when you're the new kid coming in. So to form those relationships and feel comfortable straight away, and feel like you're under the people's wings and you're being taken care of and you're supported by the whole crew. I have been noticing like all of the camps have been down here supporting each other, and I think that really creates that team atmosphere and helps everyone, because then you can understand from everyone's surfing and heats and learn a lot from your other competitors.
14:55 on the clock. Caroline still out in front over Isabella Nichols. Remember, one more heat to go today, and that features a 2-time world champion, Tyler Wright, preparing for Betty Lou. The Surf City El Salvador Pro is brought to you by Yeti, built for the wild. By Corona Cero, made with 100% natural ingredients. And by Surf City El Salvador, home of the right surf. Punta Roca, the jewel of El Salvador, where perfect lines stretch down this cobblestone setup here and just peel to let your imagination unload with big turns and what you would do on this wave. Caroline and Isabella are surfing it in real time live here in the round of 16, heat number 7. Caroline Marks going for a 3rd straight victory here in Central America, and Isabella Nichols is trying to change that script. Isabella got this wave during the break, Rosie.
Nice looking wall in front of her. Smashes it off the top. A lot of water displaced there. Oh, that second turn option. I do feel like watching this heat unfold, seeing all of the mistakes and the falls, probably is a lot harder to surf than we think it is. And I think these women are pushing pretty hard.
Meanwhile, out the back, Caroline Marks, super patient in her stance and style. That one's going to keep her behind. About 20 feet out in front, that thing is starting to drain. So Punta Roca keeping them honest today on where to position yourself. If you were sitting wide, you'd still be on that wave trying to hit the lip.
And it's crazy to just look back on how many mistakes we've had so far in this heat. We had 8 waves ridden and we had 7 mistakes so far. So it's crazy to think about. Maybe the 4.33 from Caroline Marks, it's the not an unforced mistake, because she kind of went big on that section and it was very hard for her to connect that second bottom turn into the 3rd one. So not an easy wave to do it. This last one from Isabella Nichols, maybe overcooked it, went a little bit bigger than she probably needed for the situation of the heat. She would have got a massive score if she would have landed that last turn, but could have almost safety a little bit more. She built something into, but she still got priority again, and the heat's wide open.
I mean, a 3.5 for that one maneuver. So that is something when you're sitting out the back, they announce that score. You're like, okay, I only got the 1 turn. How do I just combo up those maneuvers? And obviously those set waves, when you get that 2-turn combo, the judges are going to love that. She's going to be in the conversation. It's a 616 that's required. She has priority. There's all these positive things going her way. But now it's like, you're so far in the heat. You've spent so much time in the water. We've had the restart. How do you exude that positivity and free up your surfing when you get your feet again?
It felt like on that last wave, Rosie, she was pretty free. I felt like she attacked the wave very well, timed it well. It was just maybe when like the choice of maneuver on that closeout, because the section was kind of hollow and big, she maybe went too big for what she needed on this heat. And that's what I like to mention about Caroline. Going back to doing whatever you need to make the specific heat that's in front of you. I've mentioned that she's very good at slow cooking surfers, which means she does exactly enough. If no one's providing any big scores, she's not going to push them to do that. She's just going to keep that tensity on the low to mid-range score and make things tougher for the opponent. And then all of a sudden you get 2 8s, she gets an 8.5 and an 8, and she beats you anyway. So that's the type of surfer she is, and that's why she's a world champ. She's that good at competing and making smart decisions.
Slow cooking, you're making Strider hungry out there. Was seeing Caroline up and out on that last one. What'd you see in that wave?
Yeah, kind of. I'm really. I like the slow cook vibe. I feel like, you know, we have a slow cooking lineup at the moment, right? So we're kind of stretched out on the sets for timing wise, and you know, for her to give that wave to you know, her opponent Isabella would have been it could have been disastrous for her, because on the front side, I think you can get around those sections a little easier and a little faster. So I feel like that was a great tactical move by Caroline not to give her that wave, because you know, she was almost going to give it up, but then figured, no, I can't give her the chance to get that score. Oh, look at this thing coming in.
Here we go. Let's get this thing fired up. Punta Roca delivering another chance for Isabella Nichols to get a lead change. Drives into a big down carve. Throws down that carve nice and early before the lip line, laying down a beautiful wrapping cutty. Patient through the froth off the bottom. Great execution of rail work off the top, and finds herself a nice complete ride from start to finish. Nice morning crowd here enjoying the performance from the Australian. Looked composed, looked like she recovered from all of her mistakes, chasing a 6.16.
When you look at that wave, quality-wise, this was the best wave of the heat. It offered so much opportunity to get up in the lip, didn't close out, she didn't have to chase it down too long. That was a beautiful first turn. And then I feel like, you know, Isabella just beautiful power surfing, but maybe a touch repetitious on those three maneuvers. Frothy inside section, she finishes it clean and then hits it off the top. So that was beautiful surfing. Everything was right there, the flow. But I think she had it in her mind, like, I really want to complete this ride. I want to keep it on the rail, get a good score on the board, but potentially a little bit repetitious. Jesse, what do you think?
I agree with you, but I love this first turn here. That was commitment, and I think it was smart of her because she has been falling, and the heat's on the very slow average scoring. So she realizes she doesn't need to hit the lip right now. Like you mentioned, probably the best wave of the heat so far as quality of waves. So she just needed to finish, and that was the difference from the 3.5 and what she's gonna get right now. It's gonna put her, I would say, probably in the lead with the situation that we have, her needing a 6.16. But yeah, she avoided going a little bit deeper in the bottom turn and trying to crack a lip until the last closeout section. But I think for the situation of the heat, it was a very smart for her to do that. But now she's going to leave the door open, obviously, for Caroline Marks, and let's see if she's going to capitalize on the next opportunity.
I like the bonus inside section too. She got the finish. I definitely think 6.16 in the conversation of the heat, looking at the high mark of the 5.33 for Caroline. Isabella's going to be right there taking the lead.
6:20 to go. A very important wave from Isabella Nichols. After a series of mistakes, she locks in a 7.17, takes the lead. Ergo, the trilogy is in jeopardy. Caroline Marks down to second with priority needs of 5.35 to get back in first. The only surfer that has beaten Caroline in El Salvador is the GOAT, Stephanie Gilmore. A few years back, Steph went on to win the event. It was her 33rd CT win, still #1 in the all-time rankings, and it's been all about the Caroline show ever since. Now Marks has 5:40 on the clock to chase a 5.35.
And once again, I mean, we look at their head-to-head stats, and it's always been pretty mediocre stats and numbers, but an exciting heat when these two women go up against each other. You can tell that there's a little bit of nervous energy when these guys are competing against each other.
The intensity is in the water. You can tell by the first wave. Like, Bella had so many good opportunities in this heat so far, and she was just able to clean up on that last one. Maybe tone it down the nerves. Maybe the heartbeat was a little bit lower as well because she was able to be composed throughout the whole wave. But obviously, with all the mistakes, you're leaving the door open for Caroline, which is very good at coming back from heats. Let's see if what Isabella's going to try and sneak something.
It's interesting watching the positioning too, because usually once you've got that good score, the first thing you do is go up to your competitor, apply the pressure, try and get in Caroline's head as she's sitting now needing the score. You've just taken the lead. So Isabella creating some space in the lineup.
Still a very new event for the championship tour, but a very exciting one and prestigious one when you have this name on the very first edition of the event. An important one in the career of the greatest of all time. Steph Gilmore's 33rd victory was really crucial for her to make the final five. That was the year she came in that last seeding position and went all the way to accomplish that 8th world title. Then it's been about Caroline Marks going back-to-back, looking to make it 3 in a row. It's a rare thing when it happens. Chelsea Georgeson did it back in the day, 3 in a row in France. We had Steph Gilmore do 3 in a row a couple times. She also did it in France. We had Carissa Moore go 3 in a row at Bells Beach, just owning an entire platform, showing that it wasn't a fluke, showing that you're unbeatable on that wave. Caroline wants to make it 3. She has 3:45 left on the clock, holds down priority, and still doesn't need much. A 5.35 mid-range score. But in a heat that's kind of been all over the place, who knows what's going to happen.
I think it's smart of Bella to just try and sneak something up right now and try to bet it at 3.5 because it could make a big difference.
Her low score is a 3.5. Nice clean, just tap to connect into the pocket, then exploding on her second turn. Isabella on the wind-up. Great read, throwing down a beautiful arc. in control now. Back-to-back keepers. 3.5 will be gone, and the requirement for Caroline Marks will increase.
That was very well calculated by Isabella. I mean, just to create that space, play under the priority, find that opportunity up the point, and the surfing too. If you're going to get that smaller wave, you've got to surf it up, and that's exactly what Isabella did on that wave.
She is going to push up the requirement. Jesse, what'd you like about this ride?
Well, I just love the intensity. Obviously, the wave's more critical. It's that deeper part of the shelf, so you can see how much curve there is. That second turn, very steep. Gets a third and a fourth to finish it up, and just kicks out before the closeout because it gets pretty shallow, but she's definitely going to better her situation. Now, Caroline is a bit in trouble.
And you can tell at the end of the ride, as she's kicking off, you can see there's that little bit of pressure release. She kind of lets the shoulders hang a little lower. She breathes a little bit deeper as she ends this wave, knowing that she's really done so well to kind of turn this heat around on the strength of those last two waves.
Down to 2 minutes on the clock. We'll find out how high that score goes for Isabella Nichols. Only had to improve on a 3.5. Everything just changed. There's been a lot in this heat this morning. Had a restart, had some falls on both sides. Caroline Marks, number 3 in the world after the win in Portugal. Looked like just the clear favorite to go all the way in this event. And now we're down to 90 seconds.
I mean, such good heat strategy as you get to that 90-second mark. You've already improved your scoreline. There's this number coming through, and now you're on top of your competitor.
Isabella Nichols, 5.13. The score for Caroline goes to a 6.98. 1 minute to go.
That's a huge improvement. That's very smart of her.
And just thinking about how the rhythm of the ocean has been, we saw that big set from Isabella. It does take quite a time in this lineup for one of those new sets to roll in and be conjured up. So with under a minute remaining, it's not looking likely we'll see any action in the lineup.
Yeah, and you need a wave of substance. If you think about it, like the 7.17 was a gem of a wave, and she surfed it very well, as much as she probably could have gone bigger on the second turn and forward, but her first turn was massive, driving through those rails, and she's going to need something of substance in order to get the 6.8, 6.98.
Old Macarona Cero.
15 seconds. Caroline's got a chance. Needs a 6.98. Drives through that first section perfectly. Big vertical belt again. Wave starting to slow down on her after a brilliant start. The end section goes small and flat, and that'll be Caroline's last wave of the matchup. First two turns were really strong, but the wave ends up letting her down, and Isabella Nichols will survive a big one. The streak will be over for Caroline Marks here in El Salvador, and Nichols will move on to the quarterfinals. Wild ride this morning in this first heat, but great job for Isabella Nichols to now even things up 2-2 in all-time matchups with the world champion.
Yeah, really great heat to watch. So exciting. I mean, hard luck to Caroline, but Isabella, what a comeback from her.
George Pitar's taken off to do some sightseeing, so make sure you check his Instagram and also at WSL as well for all the updates. One more heat in the round of 16 coming up next. Tyler Wright takes on Betty Lou. wrapping turn, and Italo winds up a massive rotation. And rolling into one of her famous little lean back carves. Pushing that Paisel back into the pocket and now pushing off the lip. The Australian sets the rail and threw a lot of foam on the face. Will lose that last rebound. So this one, unlike the first one of the morning, off to a quick start with Tyler Wright taking on Betty Lou Sakura Johnson. 35-minute heats. Guaranteed not a restart in this one with already some action right after the horn. As we break this one down, we've got Betty Lou Sakura Johnson, this phenom from the North Shore of Oahu, winning big events like the Haleiwa Challenger Series when she was only 16. There was already whispers of future world champion just drifting, not just around the North Shore, but globally when she made that big statement way back when.
Yeah, what a great addition to the tour. And as she's heading into, you know, she's got a couple seasons under her belt now. She's been in that tricky picture of qualification. She's definitely finding her feet on this tour. Such a talented surfer.
Catching this wave during the break, Jesse.
That was a nice carve right there. Caught a little bit on that front foot, but still beautiful. As you can see, both of those waves from the surfers kind of had more energy towards the bottom of the phone, so it keeps pushing them out to the face of the wave, and it's very hard to find the critical part of the wave, but she still did a very good work and beautiful layback there. Second turn was very drawn out and bigger, definitely getting the exchange, the top of the exchange against Tyler on that wave. A few more maneuvers, a little bit more aggression to it, was able to open up a bit more. And a great way to start the heat.
Then to Tyler start, Rosie.
Yeah, a little bit, you know, just trying to find that section. Been a standout in the free surfs. Tyler's got this cupped out section. Second move there, a little bit mistimed. Goes up into that lip. A little frothy and tapered out on this midsection.
You notice both of those waves, like the bottom of the foam kept pushing them out on the face, and it's so hard what that does. It doesn't let you get critical. And you can see that they kind of got to go to carves, and there's never a lip for them to hit. They try to fade themselves and get deep, but still, like right there, she faded, but still wasn't able to get that pocket. It just wasn't capable of. The quality of the wave on both of those waves were a little tricky.
That first move, just opting for that drop wallet right there. Really nice maneuver choice. And I think Tyler is really great at creating moments where she can spice up her surfing and pull a little bit of her repertoire and pepper it throughout a wave. So it always keeps you engaged.
Tyler Wright picked up her 17th championship tour win of her stellar career at the season opener at Pipeline. Equal with Frida Zamba on the all-time win list. Just has been an absolute giant in her career. Almost accidentally put herself in a title race those first couple years and was even wiped off a runner-up finish. Kind of easier or better than most. It didn't really sting until she realized she wanted it more than anything. That rivalry with Carissa, so much respect for each other, but finally she's like, you know what? I've been on the wrong side of this too much. It was that heat at lower trestles where it all changed. The decision was made when they're already in the Red Bull athlete zone, and you could tell by her demeanor it was different. Losing on a close decision felt horrible, and she said, I don't ever want to feel that again, but that was what inspired one of the most dominating seasons to a world title. Was that year she won it for the first time in 2016. She had 5 big wins that year and won way before the last event of the season.
And you had to be so dominant against, you know, Carissa and Steph to win a world title, and that's exactly what Tyler Wright did. And just thinking about her career, what she's been through with all the injuries, the way that she's come back, she's definitely put us on this amazing journey watching her career unfold. And to win the first event this season in Pipeline when there's so much noise about these up-and-coming surfers, when you got the young world titles from Caroline and Katie, and for Tyler Wright to still be in that conversation for a world title is amazing.
And she didn't have a win last year, and which had a couple people questioning her world title contention, and she said, I don't think people realize that I was actually dealing with injuries last season. So she actually was very productive not at 100%. And she's right in the mix this year for world title number 3. 4.5 was the opener for Tyler. Just got a message from her shaper, John Pizell. Wow, it's early on the North Shore of Oahu, probably about 4:30 in the morning. A lot of support for his athletes. Tyler's on a 5.8 high line that he made in Hawaii, adding a touch of volume from last year since she added more muscle. So great support there from John Pizell. And I'd imagine she's probably getting even more attention since John's taken the year to sail around the world. Betty Lou jumped on some Pizells, was kind of a free agent, had some Kelly Slater designs, and ultimately signed with Matt Biolas this year. Betty Lou opened with a 6, controlling the start of the heat. These two have only had one matchup together before. It was actually in El Salvador, an elimination round heat, and Betty Lou eliminated Tyler Wright. Can she do it again at the same venue?
I mean, I think that's very important for Sakura's confidence. Obviously, coming up to this year, still not having any major breakthrough performances, and she's kind of sitting in that situation where, like, change equipment, change coaches, you have to adapt to everything, and that kind of can throw you off a few times. This next exchange for her is going to be very, very clutch and important. She's really going to have to capitalize on top of Tyler because she already sits with a 1.5 up on Tyler on the best scoring so far of this heat. She can apply more pressure on top of her. It's going to be clutch for her to take the win.
Great support crew for Betty Lou. Bit of the Hawaiian Islands right there on screen. Seth Moniz, Reynos Hayes, her boyfriend Brody Sale, enjoying this trip to El Salvador. Brody, an absolute shredder coming from the Big Island, spending months on the North Shore these days, and well, for many years now. Seth had a couple of great warm-ups this morning, and Reynos coaching full-time with Italo and Rio, and got to enjoy a final with both of his athletes. That doesn't happen every day, and that was the scenario at Abu Dhabi this year. Only other time that's really popping out to me, I'm sure it's happened a lot, but Glenn Micro Hall, snapper, Owen Wright, Maddie Wilkinson that year. Where as a coach you go, well, I think that's the perfect scenario you could ever imagine. .24:50 on the clock. If you're just joining us, it's going to be a quick day here in El Salvador for competition. This is the last heat of the day to set up quarterfinal number 4. Looks like we'll have fun surf for the next few days, but anticipating bigger waves on the last couple days of the waiting period. So surfers always part of the discussion on when to run days, and hoping to finish off with the best possible scenario for conditions. Isabella just broke the streak from Caroline Marks, as Caroline was looking to go 3 in a row. Got Katie Simmer, Sawyer Lindblad, Gabrielle O'Brien versus Bella Kenworthy, quarter 2. Molly Picklum will take on Brisa Hennessy in the 3rd quarterfinal. It's all about going to the WSL Final 5. And with Caroline out early with a 9th, that's starting to open up a little bit of space in that WSL Final 5 picture. I remember I always used to read your updates, Rosie, when you'd make your Final 5 predictions. It's a pretty tough one with such a long season, but that would always pop out. You know, one of those strong potential event favorites going down early. That's when you finally see a door open. We'll see who really opens it wide.
Yeah, definitely. And for our competitors, I mean, you're thinking of the Marlies and the Katies and the people that are in that picture for the top 5. You know, all of these things start to play in your mental space and trying to figure out who's going to be in that picture come the end of the season.
Mitchell Salazar, it might be good luck for Isabella to keep that blue jersey on for a few days.
It seems like that's the case, guys. Bella, congratulations. Joe just mentioned that it might be good luck for you to keep that jersey on for a few more days, too. on hold, you get called on, only 2 heats today. It's not regular that we do these kind of things, but it is fun out there. But after the restart, how'd you kind of settle in, especially in the back end of the heat?
Yeah, I mean, it's been definitely a tough few days. Just, yeah, I've put this jersey on. This is my 3rd time now, and I guess it's 3rd time lucky. But yeah, it's been really stop-starty, and you know, like the emotional roller coaster that we go through, even just to like get ready for one heat, having to do that like a bunch of times. It's been tough for sure. So to be able to like pull through, and that one was nice. And I had a bit of a shaky start at the start. After the restart, I hadn't surfed a wave for like 20 minutes, so my legs weren't really working. But yeah, I just want to give a shout out to my sister, because it's this might make me a bit emotional. But I think getting through that heat means maybe I'll miss her wedding. So for me, this is a tough one. It's like a bittersweet win. So I just want to say I love you so much, and apologies for the emotions. But yeah, it's definitely been a tough one to grapple with over the last couple of days. But hopefully we run tomorrow and I can make it back, but we'll see.
Congratulations, Bella.
Thank you. Cheers.
Guys.
Thank you, Mitch, and thank you, Isabella Nichols, and just releasing that emotion, which is real. You know, this is the dream tour, this is your job, but I think both of you can relate to this lifestyle. That does happen. You miss those things, and that's the other side of it that some people might not understand. But I think for Isabella to be vulnerable in that moment, to really go from the heart, you know, knowing that she wants to be there for those big moments for her family, and it's a hard one to split sometimes. We can really understand that.
And I also think the fact of like she didn't miss one wedding, she probably missed about 10 of those 10 special moments for her family, or like, because she's been doing that for the last 20 years. So it just adds up, you know, and it catches up, and at one point she's going to be very bummed about it. But I'm sure her sister will understand the situation. It's going to be happy for her to be making this heat, and now make the most of it, go in it.
Oh, definitely. The support's getting thrown right back at Isabella. That's what her family wants to see her do, succeed. Work these points all the way to the top of the contest, because she's dealt with the midseason cut in the past. She had to come off the Challenger Series last year. Isabella waiting to see who will she be competing against, either Betty Lou or Tyler Wright. During that catch-up, Tyler went up and out, and now it's Betty Lou's turn. Nice paced, open face. Second turn's just a speed jam to get down the line. Off the bottom, lot of spray straight up to the sky. Whips it into the pocket again. Driving through that section with some authority. Betty Lou Sakura Johnson steps off of a dreamy little ride at Punta Roca. The Hawaiians loved it. And she has a second scoring wave, 19:45 to go.
I feel like Betty's always giving 110%. You watch her on any wave and she's engaged, and she's just smashing it. I feel like that wave got completely dismantled.
First turn looked great. Jessie set up the whole ride.
I feel like it felt like she's more sure-footed. She's building confidence. You're gonna see her right here, had so much speed and just jammed on that pocket right there. Very critical in this. Bringing and redirecting the nose of the board even more once again, and then right now, exclamation point. You're gonna see how she stomps on the back right there. Keeps that board very vertical and up high in the lip, the most critical part of the wave. This is looking good for Betty Lou, and as I mentioned, she needed to capitalize on that next opportunity she had, and she did fine just right here.
Great filler move to keep her speed towards the next section.
And very calculated. I mean, she's got the best of the exchange with the 6.0, now adding to that scoreline. She's just such a competitive beast. It just seems like she's incredibly competitive. She wants to make the win very black and white.
Strider, how did Betty Lou look on the paddle by?
Well, the paddle by was just, she was basically just said, that's right, time to flare up. And that was just pure confidence after a wave like that. I mean, she mixed up so many different types of maneuvers, and with authority and speed and flow, I mean, everything just clicked in. It just seemed so seamless. And, you know, every turn I was seeing fins, and that's what, you know, when you're in a critical part of the wave, really fun to watch. Just like for me as a surf fan, to sit back and watch that from the water was just poetry in motion. So I want to say thank you, Betty. That was fun to watch.
That was great. Solid from Betty Lou, and also sharing her confidence with Strider. on the paddle by. He gets that sometimes. They'll actually get vocal. They're ready for it. She wants to bring even more here at Punta Roca. It's a 5.5 backup for Sakura. 6.0 was her start. So she's in that similar range. Tyler Wright now needs a 7 to go right into first. And gosh, 17 minutes is just too much time for a two-time world champ to just completely flip this one on its head. Waves on the way and a roll in from Wright. Driving into that first cut back in the pocket. This one's already wedging in front of her, but she's got the pace to get out in front for a big slice on the open face. Frames a nice top turn wrap. Looking to stretch this one out. It's going a little bit off speed, so she'll stick to the pocket. Pushing through that point off the top, and a nice easy float until it bounces her into a layback and ends up kicking her off the wave. Crowd loves that, led by the local hero, Brian Perez. Buenos dias, Brian. He's got a big heat with Italo. Off for the day for the round of 32 for the men. But there's nowhere else he'd rather be, right on his home. Actually steps from his house that he grew up in to support Betty Lou and Tyler Wright. First hook, nice and clean, Rosie.
Yeah, easy pace this wave for Tyler. Didn't get too critical. Going around this section, you think it's going to have a little bit more face, but definitely has that angle this morning where it runs out to sea a little bit, which makes it tricky on the forehand to find the cupped out section. So Tyler's kind of in two minds. Do you slow it down and reach down to that whitewater section, or do you surf out in front of the open face? Negotiating through that bumpy inside section. Doesn't quite ride out of that one. But just an easy read, kind of going through the motions on this wave.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rosie. This second carve here is beautiful. More drawn out, probably the most rail we've seen it so far in this heat, but the section is kind of going out to sea and lacks a little bit of criticalness. You can see that she's trying to move the board around, generate speed, but the wave's like lacking power. And right there, she takes her time. She reads it beautifully, but unfortunately, unforced error right here for Tyler. Just going for that floater. Needed to be a little bit more of a lip line snap to project downwards more. Gets stuck on the lip and doesn't come out of that last turn.
I love the way that Tyler's able to stay so tight in that top third, though. It gives her that opportunity to gather speed out of the maneuver. But it is a bit tricky. I mean, you're on this wave, you're waiting for it to stand up and bowl out, and then you kind of have to tic-tac-toe around those sections. Tyler's got so much power, though, and the speed and everything that she's flowing with at the moment. It's just about finding a wave that's got a bit more meat on the bone.
Yeah, that was the difference so far in this heat. Obviously, Sakura's wave, they have different styles of surfing. More aggressive for Betty Lou, always pushing that back foot more, but Tyler can really open up and draw out her carves better. But just the point of difference, just the wave selection. Sakura finding those steeper waves that bowl in towards her a little bit more and getting more critical. And so far, it's making a difference.
Stat Magazine's here doing daily reports of the event. When they had a conversation with Jordy Smith before the event started, he kind of talked about wanting like 3 different surfboard profiles on the same ride, where I maybe take off with a 6'3", then I might change on the first section to a smaller board. And I think that last wave of Tyler kind of showed that. You know, there was that gutless part of the wave where it changed gears, and then it'll bowl up again where you can go all out, and then all of a sudden you're like, man, I wish I had a fish to connect the tail end of this ride.
Just in the middle, have a little transition board just for that.
Maybe that's the future. 13:45 to go.
We might have Strider right there in the lineup, just throwing them a board halfway through the wave.
You know who could do that? Was probably Italo.
Yeah.
He could do a board transfer. He's done quite a few in the wave systems around the world, even in the ocean, especially at his home in Bahia Formosa. Betty Lou with a 6 and a 5.5. Tyler Wright's last, a 5.03. That's her best wave. So still chasing a 6.47 to get her first win over Betty Lou. Let's now send it to Strider.
What's happening, guys? Just want to get into some scores here. I mean, we just had a big, solid, right-hander from Tyler. I think she came in the 5-point range, and then Betty's wave was a little smaller, but more cupped out, and She looked like she was super aggressive from my angle, but the score wasn't that much higher. So I don't know, I want to have that conversation with you guys in there about Betty's wave compared to Tyler's wave and the scores that came in. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, we might be able to run them back for everybody to watch what we're talking about. The breakdown of performances from Tyler's wave 5.03. Betty Lou had a lot of different turns on her 5.5 in that similar range, Jesse.
I agree. I feel like there's the biggest difference, the point of difference on those two waves is just the criticalness. I felt like Betty Lou was able to link the turns top to bottom. Starts off strong, and then right here she kind of goes down the line, and from that on it's back to back pretty critical sections and pretty critical turns for her. Redirects that board, and she gets two more to finish it off, and I feel like the last one, even the best one, she gets up and vertical, that nose extending that turn very well, and Tyler drawn out more but way less critical than what we've seen it previously from Betty Lou.
And I think the wave height on Tyler's, she had a bit more of a set, but definitely Betty getting a lot more critical. And those maneuvers right there, you can tell just the length that she sits on the rail, how hard that is to do, even on a slopey section. So Tyler is all power and really generating all of this with her own strength.
I agree. That second turn was the point of difference, like that they haven't had yet in this heat besides this turn, that turn from Tyler, which, like you mentioned, the more time on rail, the harder it is for you to actually produce that. So that was beautifully done. I just thought the in-betweens, there wasn't much criticalness to it, and I thought the gap might have been a little bit bigger.
So looking at the 5.03 for Tyler, 5.5 for Betty Lou Sakura Johnson on those two waves. That was what the question was from Strider Wazalewski.
And I do think for Tyler, it was almost like she was just flowing through that wave. And I think as we hit the 10-minute mark, there's going to be more urgency in her surfing.
A different gear, yeah?
She's paced herself. Almost like left it to Betty to kind of set that scale, and then for her to hopefully implement some of that power that we're so used to from her.
Yeah. And I think it also just lacked a little bit because of the wave being on the flatter side and kind of going out to sea. It's very hard for you to be able to engage and push the back foot.
Betty Lou leading this one. Tyler Wright just needs a 6.47 in their rematch here at El Salvador. Be right back.
¿Sabes cuál es la ola más larga de El Salvador? El Sunsal tiene una de las olas más largas y suaves del Salvador, lo que lo hace ideal para longboarders.
Estamos en el Sunsal, a 10 minutos de Punta Roca. La playa es súper larga, entonces es perfecta para ver el atardecer. También hay olas perfectas y siempre hay gente surfeando. Y me gusta un montón porque hay palmeras, hay montañas, acantilados, se puede ver como un montón de toda la naturaleza. Y el sunset aquí, dependiendo de la época, se puede esconder o en el océano, que es súper lindo también verlo cuando está surfeando, o si no, en los acantilados y las montañas. Eso hace que salgan un montón de celajes y el cielo se vea rosadito y anaranjado.
Always great to hear from locals like Andrea Magana about where to go surf, what to check out. I mean, beyond the beaches in El Salvador, we've got stunning natural landscapes, including volcanoes like Santa Ana and Izalco, which offer great hiking opportunities, breathtaking views. Once again, right after this is the Corona Cerro Post Show. Very quick day of competition today, but very important to set up the quarterfinals for the women. Chris Cote will be stepping in, longtime editor of Trans World Surf. Great surfing mind, hilarious. So get ready to laugh and have a great time with Chris Cote, Rosie Hodge, and Jesse Mendez on the Corona Cerro Post Show. Big breakdowns of Caroline Marks, the streak ending as she went back-to-back, was looking for 3 in a row. And I guess speaking of back-to-back, when you've got Tyler Wright in the water, we can really dive deep into that narrative. Tyler's gone back-to-back in France, 2014 and 15, owned that event. Went back-to-back again, and another beach break in Rio de Janeiro, 2016 and 2017. Also went back-to-back at the longest running event on the calendar at Bells Beach, from 22 to 2023. So she knows how to own events. Bells was an important one for her. Kind of like in the conversation of the prestige of Pipeline. Some surfers who have won that, they put it right next to their world title trophy, put that much significance next to it. That's like what Barron's talking about with his victories. For Tyler, that was the Bell. It was something that she just dreamed of winning her whole life, and she was able to own that event in back-to-back seasons. Last year, lost her chance at 3 in a row when a wild card named Ellie Harrison took her out. Here comes Tyler looking for the 6.47. Playing some catch up to the first section. Is able to survive just one turn. She's out. So that will be a wave to just create some space. Brody Sale there was just trying to wave Betty Lou down the point now with priority.
That was a good call for Betty Lou to not get caught up in that wave, because it kind of looked like it was a good wave that was running down the line, but it was very short, and she could identify that from the takeoff and just didn't pull the trigger. Smart of her. So easy for you to get caught with someone with such a big name like Tyler Wright that can turn 5-point rides into 8-point rides, and just making you commit a mistake and force you into that. Smart decision there for Betty Lou to hold on priority.
Mitchell Salazar standing by with the backup tabla for Tyler Wright.
Yeah, guys. So this is a Paisel Highline, same model she's riding out there right now. 5'8", 18 1/4, 2.29, volume just over 24 liters. Some real good fins right here too. It seems like the Jason Stevenson kind of model right here. But guys, oh, actually Felipe Toledo Larges, who has obviously won here in the past. He's made 2 finals, but just looking at this board, very narrow up in the nose, and of course a little bit more broad in towards the tail. Talking about Vizsla CT Shaper rankings, Joe Paisel in the mix, and of course Mayhem out there with Betty Lou Sakura Johnson. He's in the lead. We're going to recap everything on the lineup podcast. Dave Prodan and myself, and of course the Corona Cerro Post Show coming up after the heat.
Love that show, Mitchell. You and Dave talking about all the happenings competitively on the tour. They have some laughs as well and have a good time breaking it down. Yeah, just touching on that backup board, just a touch more volume. That was really the major change for Tyler Wright's equipment with Paisel. Corona Cerro Post Show coming up in just a few minutes. And then a lot of anticipation on when this event might run. Well, every day looks fun on paper. We've been showing up to see fun little lines. It's up to the surfers to really opt in on when they want to compete. Still at the men's round of 32. So some serious surfing to look forward to. So now A bit of a lull here, which is good news for Betty Lou. Might be a bit more stress for Tyler Wright, but again, it's Tyler. She's been in every situation in the book. Last year, this was an elimination round heat. Betty Lou got the victory. This year, the round is 16. When you focus on the cut, it's more important for Betty Lou to make up some points before heading to Oz. But when you're focused on Tyler Wright and looking for a third world title, it's been since 2017 since she's held that big cup. So she's looking for victories. Going through the heat check. Rosie, what's standing out to you?
I think Betty, she surfed such a great heat. It's such a smart heat. 3 waves, and the first 2 really counting for her, and thinking back to her performances on those waves. Very engaged, very aggressive from the start.
So the green highlighted scores are the keepers. There's no wave max scored on your top 2. That rule was changed back in the early 2000s, and it really promoted radical surfing. Better than the top 3 system, way better than the top 4 system, which kind of promoted safe surfing, busy work. And we saw big names like Andy Irons just take over the world with the update on the scoring. Tyler Wright got this wave under priority of Betty Lou, going for the air reverse, just rotates out the back of the wave. Betty Lou looked, saw the incompletion, back to the horizon. And she's not just swarming Tyler, she's still just holding court on the takeoff zone, now starting to drift.
I was just about to say, it's about time for you to kind of get going, you know? She looked very composed, which is nice, but don't leave that big of a gap. You never know when a wide one's going to come. She doesn't need a big score. For Tyler in a right-hand point break, any average wave could kind of be a 6.47.
Remember like about 10 years ago, 15 years ago, people used to feel kind of bad for playing this part of their job. And I think now everyone's like, this is your job. You have priority, play defense, sit on your opponent. But there was almost this apologetic approach when surfers would come in knowing they were just haunting their competitor, being their new shadow.
I feel like it shows also respect to your opponent, you know, like you know he's capable of doing it, and you just got to keep an eye on it. Like, almost cocky for you to just sit there and think that, oh, he's not going to get it, you know?
Right. It's part of the game. You've got to play it, and Betty Lou's just put together a stellar performance to have the lead and priority and to sit next to a giant name in the sport and getting very close to making it 2 in a row against Tyler here in El Salvador.
Yeah, in my mind, if you're Betty's coach, she's coming in and you're just giving her kind of a handshake and a pat on the back saying that's how it's done. You know, making those 2 waves count, applying the pressure at the end, and just creating opportunities for herself. I think, too, Betty's been very engaged and very calculated throughout this heat.
Betty Lou makes it 2 against Tyler Wright here in El Salvador, and she moves on to quarterfinal number 4 to take on Isabella Nichols in the Surf City El Salvador Pro. 6 and a 5.5. Solid positioning with priority to shut it down. Caroline Marks out of the event this morning, so a short day, but giant news heading into more fun surf here at Punta Roca later on in the waiting period. To break down the forecast, the top 5 moments, and all the drama from the day, we'll see you on the Corona Cerro Post Show with Chris Cote.
Welcome, surf fans, to the Corona Cerro Post Show. It's going to be a quick yet impactful show. This is maybe the 5th day in a row that I've said that, but it rings true as we see Brian Perez signing some autograph for the fans down here. Punta Roca. Brian Perez has a pretty heavy heat coming up, which we'll be talking about later on in the show. But for now, let's take a trip down the beach, through the rocks. See the lions coming in. So we got here early this morning. There were some nice waves coming through. Made the decision to run a couple heats. Chris Cote, Rosie Hodge, Jesse Mendez. And I just want to say cheers, guys. I know it's early. It's only 8 o'clock here, but
it's
Corona Cerro. So, you know, anytime's a good time for it. Let's talk a little bit about what transpired early this morning. The waiting game was kind of going through the entirety of the last few days for some of our surfers, including Caroline Marks and Isabella Nichols. You know, they had to really internalize things, right? And just have that mental preparation. Isabella Nichols, she's been wearing the same jersey for 3 days. I think she slept in it, actually. But the good news for her is this jersey was nice and warmed up before going out into this heat.
Well, always prepared. And I think for both of these women, just contemplating this matchup for so many days in a row. I mean, we've been waking up for the broadcast around 4 a.m. I think the surfers have been getting down here on dark. We've been making, you know, 5:30 calls. So the competitors really have to be switched on super early in the morning. Caroline started this one so strong, Mitch. I mean, Jessie, sorry.
Yes, that was impressive from her. And like, it seems like she's always going to take the heats because she's just that consistent of a surfer. We just had Isabella kind of come off the gates and regroup herself, reset, and go into broke and kind of smash it. That was the only mistake we kind of saw from Caroline right there, if we could even mention, but beautiful lines from Isabella Nichols.
And Isabella, obviously a veteran competitor, she loves this, but in her post-heat interview, saying that this is a kind of a bittersweet moment for her. She's on the verge of potentially missing her beloved sister's wedding. So it almost makes you think, obviously, she's not going out there to throw the heat. We know that. But in the back of her mind, she had to have been thinking, well, this is kind of a pressure-free thing. If I lose, the great news is I get home in time for the wedding. If I win, well, that puts me in contention, and of course, you've got to dodge that mid-season cut. And Isabella Nichols, it just looks like she's surfing freely with speed, aggression. She did everything right in that heat.
And that was a very important heat for qualification. You know, if you think about the cut coming up soon after Margaret River, it was clutch for her to make part of the finals or even go further than that into the event.
Well, that's 717, the weightiest wave of that heat 7, highest single wave score of the heat. And you saw Caroline Marks there just kind of hovering in that mid zone, 5.33 and a 4.33. So it wasn't a very friendly day for former champions. You saw Caroline Marks in that first heat getting taken out. I wouldn't quite say it's a major upset because Isabella Nichols is that good. But when you're thinking of a surfer who was on the verge of 3 in a row here in El Salvador, I mean, that's a huge win for Isabella Nichols.
Oh, totally. I mean, Caroline would have been the favorite. Coming off the win in Portugal, like you said, and going for 3 here in El Salvador, I would say it is an upset. I mean, you see Isabella as the lower seed in that heat, taking out the win. She had to rectify a few mistakes there. So big win for Isabella, and we'll see what that does for her confidence.
Well, the sun had taxed the field for sure. This is the most empty I've seen the Red Bull athlete area of the entire event so far. Really, just only a handful of surfers down there with their coaches. Tyler Wright was one of them, showed up early, and she kind of hung in the back corner of the Red Bull area. And, you can tell, game face is on, nice and relaxed, and right in front of her, you see Tommy Whitaker, Betty Lou Johnson, some weird guy with glasses on behind them, hovering, trying to find the story, where the story is right here. Betty Lou Johnson. This is a real highlight in how good she surfs on these long right-hand point breaks. Another big heat for her. You know, going up against a surfer of Tyler Wright's magnitude on a wave like this, she showed no fear, all confidence.
Yeah, and watching Tyler, it was just more of an easy flow through the waves and not as much maybe aggression like we saw from Betty Lou on her waves.
But it was kind of clear, I guess, if you look back to the first wave of the heat, which is Betty Lou's best score and the best score of the heat, she was more drawn out. That shows that the judges were kind of paying close attention to how much time you put in your rail in the water and engaging that rail. This wave here for Betty Lou, definitely more aggressive than all of the waves on the heat, but more back-footed, using the fins to get the speed instead of the rail, and the judges kind of going the other way around. So I guess it made sense if you look back throughout the whole heat for her to get the best score, and that best score of Tyler Wright kind of coming in close as well to that in this wave that we're watching right now.
Yeah, it was you know, a really close heat. We actually went back and watched a few of the waves back to back and compared the exchanges, but it really not much in it. I think Tyler was right there knocking on the door. It was just yeah, on the unfavored side to get that second to Betty, but in my mind it was a super close heat.
And both these surfers showed up to work early, and that's got to sting a little bit being eliminated this early in the morning. It's like showing up to the office and right when you walk in they say, you're fired. Why are you here? That's got to be the feeling when they leave the beach. But the good news is they're still in beautiful Surf City, El Salvador. Here's how it ended. Johnson with a 6 and a 5.5. Tyler Wright, really similar scores to what we saw from the previous heat. Caroline Marks. But unfortunately, we lose Tyler Wright. But fortunately for these surfers, our quarterfinals are absolutely stacked with rippers. A lot of great stories here. You got Caitlin Simmers going up one of her best friends, Sawyer Lindblad, Gabriella Bryan versus Bella Kenworthy, Molly Picklum, Risa Hennessy, and Isabella Nichols going up against Betty Lou Sakura Johnson. Isabella, she's going to have to trade that blue jersey she's been wearing for the past 2 days in for red.
That could be trouble.
And
we'll see.
One thing I will say too, we were talking up the goofy footers coming into this event. There's only one left in the draw with Sawyer Lindblad. So, you know, we're kind of finding new narratives now.
Yeah, it's always fun when you see some new names shuffle into those quarterfinals. You love to see the big names of our sports, the past champions, always doing what they do. But I like an underdog story that develops, and I think we're starting to see a couple of those as we come to the quarterfinals. And, the call to run in these mornings, it's been a pretty unique thing. You don't see it that often in surf competition on the championship tour, really just taking the first 2 hours of the day for the last 4 days straight. It gives these surfers a lot of time to think between heats. So I think that the coaching element down here and just putting yourself in positive situations around the area is really helping these surfers who have achieved success so far. Speaking of achieving success, Betty Lou Sakura Johnson, a surfer so good, they named her 3 times, if you can believe it. She's on the glass now with Mitchell Salazar.
That's right. Sakura, congratulations. You went up against a strategist in Tyler Wright, a former finalist, but you settled in early on. What were you kind of identifying out there, especially when you first piled out, knowing that it was a slow heat, the one before, excuse me?
Yes, yeah, just knowing that the ocean was really slow this morning, kind of just knew how to capitalize on those bigger sets that did come in every once in a while, and just hoping to, be in the right rotation to get those waves. But yeah, against Tyler, she's a world champion. She's hard to beat. Definitely happy to get over that one.
Coming from Haleiwa, this is a wave that actually has a good amount of power too. When you look at the Championship Tour schedule and you see this place, especially, how much opportunity you give yourself knowing that this might be my spot to win my first Championship Tour event?
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a right point handbrake. I love my front hand, and I'm just, taking it heat by heat, of course. But yeah, just knowing that I have the capability to win heats and win an event, it's very, very special, and I can't wait to hopefully do that someday.
Tommy was out there caddying for you, but your entire crew, Seth, Doug Silva, Reynolds, and of course Brody Sale, they were going wild every time you stood up. Having that kind of support system right here, especially in the heat, how crucial is it, Betty?
Yeah, well, it's so important to have a great support team. I'm super grateful everyone came down to watch my heat, even though there was only 2 heats this morning. But yeah, to have that support means the world, and I'm very special and lucky to have that.
Gracias, Sakura.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys.
Chris?
Well, thank you, Mitch. When Mitch gets in that power stance, the hard-hitting questions are going to follow. Congratulations to Betty Lou Sakura Johnson. So, like I've been mentioning, really just picking the eyes out of this waiting period. The wind has been coming up midday. We've seen tidal situations, kind of making it an easy call to put the event on hold. But what is in store for us around the corner? I believe this is a satellite look at this El Salvadorian coast that really seems to be a swell magnet. Jesse, in the next few days, what are you thinking?
I think in the next few days, we're kind of looking something very similar to what we had today, the day before, and the previous days. But then we do see kind of a south-southwest swell building up towards Friday, even Thursday afternoon. So we're probably going to see some very fun waves for the end of the period, and probably going to see the surfers line up with above overhead waves.
Yeah, and one thing, Rosie, that we know we have to do is set our alarms for very early, about 4:15, 4 o'clock in the morning, because it's proper that we got to get down here and get eyeballs on these waves before we make the official call. And so far, every morning, the minute we've pulled up, it's been firing up here.
It looks super fun. It always does down here at Punta Roca. It pulls in most of the swell, but you know, conditions really lining up for those last 3 days of the event window. But I think we'd be fools not to wake up, check it, and see what we can do. There's still a lot of event to run. We've still got 16 heats in the men's round to get through. The women's quarterfinals are set up, but there's still a lot of surfing to do.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about how many times we had this contest being on and how far we've got so far in the event. But lucky for us, it's all because there's great forecast ahead, and we're just trying to capitalize and make sure we're going to get the best conditions for the surfers.
Yeah, lucky we're in El Salvador because there are plenty of things to do to occupy your time down here. Surfing, of course, the #1 priority for most people. Well, speaking of a lot of surfing to come, this is a surfer who catches a ton of waves every time he hits the water. I'm talking about Italo Ferrer, currently wearing that yellow rankings leader jersey. This right here is a Central American grudge match for the ages. Of course, friendly rivals between Italo Ferrer and Brian Perez. But Brian Perez, historically speaking, has had Italo's number in this event.
He has. They met previously in this round. Brian Perez got the win, but Italo, I mean, can anyone stop his momentum? He's looking so strong. That round 1 heat was just insane, and actually Brian was in that heat, fell into the elimination round.
Ooh, this is a scary matchup, but guess what? This next one that we have for you, a heat to watch, is Heat 16. We've got the power surfing of Al Cleland Jr. going up against the lightning fast hunger, Felipe Toledo. Even when this guy is making it through heats, he wants more. This matchup to me is super exciting because you've got two polar opposite types of surfers, but we know one thing, both of them equally as hungry. Felipe, he's trying to fight to get up into that upper echelon, up into the top 5 at the end of the year. Al Cleland Jr. trying to make a big statement to beat one of the best to ever do it in Felipe Toledo.
Mostly in these conditions that we have to offer, obviously Felipe is the most dominant male surfer in the last, let's say, 10 years in those conditions. So it's going to be a big tax for Al, but he's been surfing amazing. He's very solid, good in the air, and he's going to put in a fight. It's really just up to whoever gets the best waves and perform the best and feels the best the next day that we run the comp.
Yeah, we'll see what happens tomorrow morning. You really never know. You can predict one thing. There's always going to be waves pretty much every break that you check here in El Salvador, but we want to get those prime time conditions with enough consistency to run events. So check back in tomorrow. You set your alarms at home. We're going to be making the call at 6:15 a.m. local time. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Adios.
This copyrighted event broadcast is produced by the World Surf League for broadcast around the world and may not be retransmitted, reproduced, rebroadcast, or otherwise distributed or used in any form without the written consent of the World Surf League.